Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Enjoy Your Podcast show. This is Aaron. I'm your host, and I'm welcoming you back to another episode. I'm thankful for the love I was shown in the live video. There was a couple audio problems, but me, JDW, we're gonna get through it. Shout out to just everybody that's shown love since I came back after the 3 week break because of work. But we're back. Made the live a couple days ago about the Texas versus Colts preview video. It came out great. Thankful to y'all. But now we're back post game, day after Texans versus Colts. I always kind of give myself a day after break because as fans, we go through such a cardiac type feeling after the Texans win because it's always a close game no matter what game it is. Even if the defense is playing their ass off, even if offense is somewhat doing decent, it's always going to be a tough game. It's football. It happens every week to any team. Any upsets happen. It's just how it is with the NFL. You're going to get what you get out of every game. But let's get into it. The Houston Texans are now 7-5, defeating the now 8-4 Colts. It was a defining win as for the Texans, especially showing the league that hey, we're here. We're trying to make it into the playoffs because we deserve to be in the playoffs. Yeah, we started off rough, but look where we're at now. We're right here on the door. We're in the hunt. We're waiting for one of these teams to fall off a little, per se, like the Colts. They're falling. They're having a little downfall. So we're taking advantage of that by beating them. Yes, it may be, maybe it may have been, a controversial watch if you go back to watch the full game. But in the end, the Texans defeated the Indianapolis Colts 20-16. In my live video, I said 24-20, so still a 4 point game. But I knew it would have been a defensive battle. Uh, I knew it would have been low scoring. 20 points is still average at best, and that's what our offense is. We average about 20 points. Our defense holds teams under 16 points. And what did I say about the Colts? They are first in points, averaging about 30 points. They got held to 16. This is the first time all season that they've been held under 20. So hats off to the defense. We'll get into defense soon enough. But let's get into stat wise with the offense first. You got CJ Stroud coming back after 3 games because of the concussion. You wondered how he looked. You wondered if he would have some rust, which he did, but we'll get into it. We're gonna go play by play in this video, drive by drive, sort of per se. But CJ ending this game, he was 22 for 35. He had 276 passing yards, no touchdowns, one interception, which we'll talk about that. Uh, Honestly, I thought he would have had more than one touchdown, but just the way the offense was when heading into the red zone, we still made our points here and there, but you feel we should have made more. And I will put blame on certain people once we get there. Let's get into the running back. Woody Marks, he had 19 attempts for 64 rushing yards. He averaged about 3.4 yards per carry. Woody did his best today. He looked good. The offensive line did get pushed back a lot to where Woody was running into his own blocker. Like he ran into the our fullback. I don't know why I'm forgetting our fullback's name, but he ran into him because of a good defensive stand. So majority of the time, Woody was fighting for his yardage, and Woody was playing hurt. You could see it. Woody he had a few times where he was limping off the field, but he's a dog. He was playing hurt, and that's the type of running back we love. But we need to use we need to open up the holes for Woody even more because his offensive line they are doing good. They are looking better, but when it comes to the run game, we are looking a little just subpar at best. Like we're not a good rushing offense at all. We're more majority passing, but you still gotta correlate each other with the run and pass, connect them, make sure the teams don't just expect you to pass every single play. Well, let's get into the receiving. Speaking of passing, let's get into receiving. Nico Collins, 5 catches for 98 yards. He had 7 rushing yards with one rushing touchdown, which is kind of crazy as a stat because you're normally hearing Nico with a passing touchdown. But you know, Nico he owns the Colts. He's a T.Y. Hilton to the Texans as he that's what he is. He's like T.Y. Hilton to the Texans. They dominate against this team. Nico dominates the Colts every time he steps into Lucas Oil Stadium, and it's the same with CJ. Yes, CJ had a pick. Yes, CJ had times where he was looking rusty, but him and Nico they own Lucas Oil Stadium since honestly since CJ was a rookie. That's how it is. But then you got Jaden Higgins. He looked good. He had 5 catches for 65 yards. You got Dalton Schultz, who has been looking even better as the season's progressed. He had 7 catches for 55 yards, and you got Xavier Hutchinson, who had 2 catches for 39 yards. So it's good that we're utilizing everybody instead of trying to force feed the ball to Nico, especially if he's covered too hard. Like there's that one deep ball where CJ threw it to Nico. I thought he almost had it. He could have almost had it, and that would have been I would have lost my shit if he did. Uh, but overall, Nico still had a great game. Nico dominated the secondary. I was hoping to see that matchup of Nico versus Sauce, but Sauce got hurt. I believe it was 2 plays into the game. He was dealing. They're saying it's a calf strain, but when it's a non-contact injury, kind of you kind of question it to not put too much on it because you don't know if it's bad or if it's not as bad as they say because non-contact can be bad a lot of times, especially if it's non-contact compared to getting hit in the back of the calf. It makes a difference. Trust me, we know that from past tense with let's say Deshaun Watson with his ACL injury was non-contact. Non-contact can be worse than contact. Uh, but aside from that, listen, we're not even trying to talk about Deshaun Watson. We're just talking about injury, though. Speaking of the offense, the offensive line, they looked good in the past game, allowing only 2 sacks. One was on CJ because he ran into it, and you kind of looked at CJ like, "What are you doing?" And especially when we were right there in the red zone, nearing the red zone, but it was still a sack that killed the drive for us to get a field goal after that sack. Even though we know we could have gotten a touchdown or so instead, it is what it is. But CJ needs to stop running into sacks. He needs to do and see what Davis Mills is doing by getting rid of the ball. That's all you got to do. Just get rid of it. Stop taking these sacks that you've taken all season. But I'm not going to discredit CJ for the game he had. The other sack was on Ed Ingram. He got bullied on that on that side. He got pushed out the way. CJ took the sack, so that was on Ed Ingram, but Ed Ingram held his own the rest of the game. The running game was a struggle as usual, only averaging about giving the run game about 3.2 yards per carry from Woody to Nick Chubb. Um, the Nico Collins rush does count a part of it, but I don't really count it. But I'm basing it off of Woody and Nick. But yeah, overall it was 3.2 yards per carry. You want to see that go up a little bit more because Nick Chubb and Woody Marks are having a fight for the yardage. Uh, Instead of hoping for a hole, like say John Taylor, like with certain holes that were made for him, or like right down the middle. We try to go down the middle, but it's immediately stuffed. So you hope that as the end of the season progresses, you hope that Nick Caley, uh, Popovich, you hope that they can get this offensive line together. But they've been doing good. The offensive line has been doing good. They have, but it's still the struggles of the run game that you hope once we get into the playoffs, it looks better than it's been looking now, but we'll see as we go, especially heading into next week. A tougher stadium to play at, and a team that's pissed off after losing to the Cowboys, which I'm talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. But we'll get into that later in this episode because I know, of course, I'm going to make another episode talking about the preview of Texas versus Kansas City. We're going to get into the defense stats now. The defense, Aziz Al-Shaair led the team with 4 tackles and 4 assists. There's that point where Aziz went down. I got scared because Aziz is the leader of this defense, and you saw the way he was down. You were like, oh crap, Aziz is down, and it looked bad the way he was laying down. I got scared because yeah, we got good linebackers. We had pretty decent good linebackers from Henry Toto, EJ Speed, who stepped up. He did step up with good tackles. Christian Harris, I don't know where he's at, but once you saw Aziz step off and then come back in, you were like, that was a breath of fresh air because Aziz is the leader of this defense. He's the junior D'Amico Ryans. He's the defense coordinator of a line as a linebacker, pretty much, because he tells his guys where to go. He's just a great linebacker, especially how well he's done in coverage this season compared to last season. Let's see. Sheldon Rankins ended the game with 1 sack. Will Anderson at the edge, he gave that offensive line hell. If you go back to that one play where it was a third down, was it a third down or was it a second down? But they put Will Anderson to attack the center. He pushed the hell out of the center, and it gave Danny Jones hell, and he threw incompletion. But That was such a great defensive play, defensive scheme, throwing Will Anderson at the center. Will Anderson was giving them hell. Yeah, we only ended the game with one sack, but we were giving Daniel Jones hell with the pressure. But, the Colts, they were ready for it because the thing that they did was they were running about seven blockers, 7 to 8 blockers, a lot of plays because they knew the hell that this defense line would give them. And so they were prepared for it. But bad thing was they were only running about two, three receivers on the field. So there were a lot of incompletions because you're just running only two to three receivers on the field compared to having the offensive line be stacked up with seven players. So you're just pretty much like calling your play dead because you're not going to make a play out of it because of how good our coverage is and how good our defensive line is. So we're going to do our best to make sure that the pass is incomplete at the end of it. Let's see. But overall, though, when we get in defense, we're gonna get into the stats of the Colts of what they gave up. Daniel Jones, he ended the game with by being 14 for 27. He had 201 passing yards, two touchdowns, and overall he looked good. Yeah, you could see that they weren't trying to run him around too much because of the fibula. He had that 3D cast on or something like that, but yeah, you can see how like the thickness of that 3D cast and it did help him out. He was moving around, but not too much. You could see he was still laboring a little. But Dan Jones being stationary, the seven blockers that were helping him, he did make a lot of passes. He did look good. So the fibula didn't bother him too much. Just mainly when he tried to make a little bit movement, you could see that he was how can I say he was still affected by it, but and then when he was affected by pressure, he would just try to dot it where you could see anybody's available, especially like his safety valves with a running back or a tight end. But overall, he looked good, but he was still bothered by the pressure, bothered by the fibula. I mean, who wouldn't be? That's a fractured fibula. You're going to be bothered by it. John Taylor, he had 21 attempts for 85 yards. He had three catches for 36 yards passing. He had no touchdowns. The stats look good, but honestly, he was quiet majority. He was quiet the first quarter. They were starting to finally use him heading into the second quarter, and it was mainly the screen game that killed us. We were honestly not communicating right, especially when that one screen happened. I think it was for 33 yards, and John Taylor just went off. I was scared that they were going to score that drive, but we'll get into that. But John Taylor, he looked good in the run game, but mainly he looked good in the passing game, in the receiving game. But run game wise, we stuffed him a lot. We kept him quiet at times, but of course, he's honestly the MVP of this league this year. So of course, he's going to make his yardage. Like the gains he made, throughout the second half, where he was getting 10 yards a play, or say 13 yards a play. So I'm not going to put too much on defense. He's an MVP caliber running back, so he gets his yardage. So, but he didn't have the game that a lot of probably Colts fans or media thought he had under 100 yards. So that's an accomplishment to this defense. Receiving wise, Michael Pittman was honestly quiet the whole game. Like I literally did not hear Michael Pittman's name at all. But the one player you did hear, who sometimes honestly always kills us, is Alec Pierce. He had four catches for 78 yards and one touchdown, which was a dot. It was a dot touchdown. But I'll talk about that in a little bit. You got Josh Downs, who also kind of sometimes beats us, but he had two catches for 44 yards. The thing I didn't like is Miles Bryant was on Josh Downs, and Miles Bryant, I just don't care for. He's not good. Like we need to get another corner in, or I don't know. Miles Bryant is just not good. And then speaking of secondary, Kalen Bullock, he was kind of getting beat a lot of plays, especially with the game he had last week against the Bills with two interceptions, one forced fumble. He was getting beat, especially by Alec Pierce. Like Alec Pierce was on him. Alec Pierce was getting open, and yeah, especially Kalen Bullock with that costly PI, but I'll get into that eventually. Heading into the fourth quarter and all that. Then you had Tyler Warren. He had three catches for 22 yards with one touchdown. He was quiet majority of the time. He was, like I said in the live video for the preview, he was quiet. But in the live video I made, I was expecting him to go off more, but he was dealing with the stomach virus issue. So you don't know if it was affecting him or not as bad as you think, but he was quiet majority of the time. The only reason he has the touchdowns because the offense decided to just stumble on itself, and of course, drives are going to happen, and they're going to find their leading their leading receiver, their killer of a weapon, which is Tyler Warren for a touchdown, which was a I believe it was a bootleg play. And yeah, we just couldn't. We just did not see Warren, and he got a touchdown. But overall, the defense held their own throughout majority of the game. But we're gonna get into drive by drive where I talk about like what I thought about this drive, what about thought about that. But if you have any comments about like the stats, what do you think that how you think the defense did, how you think the offense did, especially play calling wise, especially player wise, like CJ coming back after 3 games. Did you think he had bad rust? Did you think he shook off the rust? I think he shook off the rust once the second half started because he looked good because. Especially with the offensive line, you saw no pressure. You honestly saw no pressure. Like Lou Anarumo, I thought he would have put CJ more because of the news of in the media of our offensive line. You feeling like the stunts and the blitzes would attack our offensive line, but it didn't even seem like he was blitzing too much. He was being conservative. He was scared of the weapons like Nico, like Hutch, like Higgins. So CJ had time in the pocket. It was just making the scheme and the plays happen. And majority of the time we did make it happen, and majority of the time we didn't make it happen, which was in the red zone. We can just be clear about it. It was mainly in the red zone. We couldn't make it happen. Let's get into it. The first drive looked good, especially CJ's first drive. But still, red zone offense can't score at all, and it's just a disappointment to see this red zone offense not do what they're supposed to do. But it ended with a Kaimi kicking a 23-yard field goal. But I'll get into the red zone offense after the drive this drive scenario because I will talk about Nick Haley at the end of this. Let's see, throughout the first quarter, offensive flags were terrible because you could see you saw that second drive of ours. It was honestly back to back to back flags with illegal formation. CJ, uh, CJ with the illegal pass downfield, and it was just like, why are we shooting ourselves in the foot when you got the defense holding the Colts in the first quarter to 3 punts, and we squandered opportunities with scoring when the defense held them to 3 punts in the first quarter. Like you literally had in the beginning of the season where Colts didn't punt at all, and I believe it was like 3, 4 games, and we held them to 3 punts in the first quarter, and we couldn't take advantage of that. Our offense just shot themselves in the foot throughout the first quarter, and at that point, I was honestly like thinking we might just lose this game because I know how this offense is going to do. I know what this offense is going to do, and they're going to stumble and stagger and shoot themselves in the foot because of these flags, because of Nick Haley not coming up with the right scheme and just no communication and just not making the play happen. But that was the first quarter. Honestly, the first quarter was, I would say, the worst quarter of the offense. The rest of the quarters, they were pretty decent and then good. Let's see. Heading into the second quarter, Colts were driving on us in the second quarter. They were over there on our side of the ball, and then it was 3rd and 3. They rushed it with Jonathan Taylor. He got It was a questionable ball placement because I know Colts fans were saying it should have been a first down, maybe, but the refs called it what it was, so it turned into 4th and 1. You saw what everybody does now, the tush push and all from the Eagles, such a stupid play, but it was honestly it was honestly kind of a, how can I say, mm, it was such a confusing kind of formation at first because you had Daniel Jones in shotgun, you had John Taylor right beside him, and then you seen Tyler Warren coming from the left side of the field, going in, running behind the center's back for a tush push in a way, and as soon as he hiked it, he held it, but then fumbled it, and then John Taylor grabbed it, and they had the loss of yardage, and turnover on down. So that was a great defensive stop, especially 4th and 1 on our side of the ball, on our side of the field for them to pretty much score a touchdown because they could have, but they floundered that opportunity. But just as we get that turnover on down, the next play, CJ decided it was a play action pass, and CJ had time. He had time in the pocket to make any decision he wanted, and he overthrew a ball to, I believe it was Hutch, and Hutch couldn't get there, and it was intercepted by Bynum at our 42. So they had good field position right there, which led a Daniel Jones to Alec Pierce 14-yard touchdown at the end of it. But It is because, and that's not because of the defense. The defense literally stopped them on turnover down for a turnover down, just for our offense to turn the ball over. CJ throwing an overthrown ball that he should not have thrown. So I'm not going to blame the defense at all when they had good field position at R 42. So yeah, they got a touchdown out of that turnover, but their kicker Badgley, he missed the extra point, which uh, put them up 6-3. But that extra point is a defining extra point because it defines the rest of the game, especially controversy wise. But I'm not. We'll get into that after that touchdown. The next drive, CJ and his offense drives well down the field, especially feeding Nico the ball that we wanted to see, and Nico was eating when needing it, when getting it. We drove down the field and we got into the red zone. Good red zone. Um, Nico should have had a passing touchdown, but he stepped out of bounds at, I believe, the 4 yard line, which led to the and me and you already know this red zone offense. Whenever you saw that Nico stepped out of bounds, you were scared because you don't know how this red zone offense is going to look, especially floundering an opportunity like that of Nico stepping out of bounds. But next play, Nick Chubb, it was a toss play, I believe. He ended it with a 4 yard rushing touchdown. So that was a good tough play by Nick Chubb. So we're up 10-6. All right, next drive, Colts go 3 and out uh, with about, I believe it was 3 minutes left. I don't remember, but they went 3 and out. We got the ball back with two timeouts. With two timeouts. Oh, never mind. I wrote it down in my notes. We had two timeouts when we got the ball back after the Colts drive was stopped by our defense. We had 1 minute 51 seconds with two timeouts. Um, there was an, you had so much time with 1 minute and 51 seconds. That's like an hour to any like good offense. That's like an hour to any good offense. Two timeouts, 1 minute, 51 seconds. That is forever. You have a lot of time. And I don't know what happened with this 2 minute offense when you know you want to score before half because you're getting the ball after halftime. You want to score like that. You want to keep that lead going. You don't want the Colts to have any reason to try to come back. So we get the ball back and we start passing. The pass looks good. CJ looks good. We start moving down the field, but we're letting the clock drain. And we're just, everybody's watching. JJ Watt's even talking about it. Like, what are they doing? Why are they killing the clock when they have two timeouts? Why are they staying in bounds? Hurry this offense up. And we're just moving slow. CJ's moving slow. Everybody's moving slow. D'Amico's looking confused over there, only calling a timeout when we get to, I believe, 50 seconds. And it's like, what are we doing? And we're at like our own 40, I believe. And we're driving, and then we get to, it was a, yeah, I believe it was a it was 3rd and 10. Was it 3rd and 10? Trying to think. No, it was 2nd and 10. I believe it was 2nd and 10. Yeah, it was 2nd and 10. And CJ threw a ball to Higgins, and Higgins had the first down. No, it was a 3rd and 10, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 10. Higgins had the first down when it was a slant route, I believe. CJ threw the slant route to Higgins. He had the first down right there, but decided to revert behind the line. I don't know what the decision was by Higgins right there, but he he decided to run behind the first down line, and it turned into he fell down for a 4th and 2, and everybody's just looking like, "What are you doing?" And if he would have got the first down, we still had like about 20 or so seconds on the clock, and we had one timeout left. And you would think that we would hurry this offense up to maybe get a first down real quick, or yeah, pretty much get a first down to get some extra yardage. Even if it is a 4th and 2, get some extra yardage, get a first down because you could have gotten a first down and then called a timeout, getting extra less yardage for Miami to kick a field goal. What could have been a 65-yard field goal because of that 4th and 2, we didn't. We just decided to stop at 2 seconds with a timeout, and you're thinking, okay, then they're going to just trust in Kaimi to kick a 65-yarder. No, they decided to let the offense back on the field and throw a Hail Mary. At that point, I don't know what the decision making was right there. That was an idiocracy of a decision making of a head coach, and I blame it all on D'Amico. That was such bad clock management. I don't know what happened there. You could have scored. You were in such good position to score either a field goal. All I'm going to say is a field goal. Let's just call it that, a field goal. You could have been up before halftime, 13-6, but you decide, nah, let's just head into halftime. When it's just like, what are we doing? We cannot be going into games like this because if we go into Kansas City and we do this dumbass decision, we're going to lose a game like that because you got to get your points. You can't just say, "Oh, let's head into halftime," when you know you should have gotten the points right there. Even if Kaimi missed it, at least you tried to get a field goal. Like I would have ran Kaimi out for a 65-yard field. His longest in his career is a 61. So why not try it? Everybody's hitting 60 yards nowadays. So why can't Kaimi? But yeah, that was just stupid. Uh, After halftime, the drive after half was good. 14 plays were made. We got into the red zone, and of course, the offense stuttered once again. And I believe that was the C.J. Stroud running into a sack play for a fourth down, but it led to a 43-yard field goal by Kaimi. Now we're up 13-6 when we could have, if say Kaimi made the field goal before half. If we decided to do that, we would have been up 16-6. Like we would have been up by double, like by double drive, by two scoring drives. Like I just don't get it. Uh, the next drive, the Texans defense blows the next drive by giving up big plays, and that's what this defense does. I've said it before on the live before that they will give up the big plays. Bad flags as well. You remember the 4th and 27 last week against the Bills with the hook and ladder? Yeah, we had that with 3rd and 19. Kalen Bullock was called for 3rd and 19 when you know their offense is dead in the water on 3rd and 19. They're just going to throw anything up for a prayer, and they threw that prayer up, threw it to I believe it was Alec Pierce. I believe it was Alec Pierce, but they called pass interference on Kalen Bullock. But the thing was, that was such a controversial call because the ball was so overthrown out of bounds that why are you calling that when it's not even catchable? But because I think it's because they Kalen Bullock was holding on to him. They both fell down, but I still don't know why you'd call that when the ball's not catchable. It's out of bounds. It was literally next to the referee out of bounds. So I don't understand the calling on that. I think it's just makeup calls for certain calls that were made and weren't made throughout the game. But the referees, yeah, we'll get into that. uh, the next offensive drive from the late third quarter heading into the fourth, which was the biggest controversy drive ever. We drove down the field. We drove down the field, moving, and then we get into a third down, and then it was the second or third for the false start, but we got a false start, which eventually led to 3rd and 15. But that 3rd and 15 led to the most controversial play throughout of the whole game, throughout the whole media, which was the incompletion to it was Hutch, I believe. Yeah, it was Hutch, and there's a phantom flag called of PI on Kenny Moore, and you saw the replay. Fans are booing, and for us Texan fans, we got to take it. I don't care. We're taking that flag because we never get flags our way, and it is what it is. Fans are booing. Media's even JJ Watt saying, "Yeah, that shouldn't have been a PI," but in the back of his mind, he's like, "I don't care. We need this win." Uh, but still, after that flag, we were moving well with the run and pass game on that drive, and we ended it in the red zone with a Nico Collins 7-yard toss play, 7-yard rushing touchdown. Um, so we're up 19-13, and Kaimi. The other controversial call is he kicked the extra point through the uprights above the pole, and it is going back and forth through the media, of course, about if it was made or not. But they say it was made, and I'm gonna take it because it looked like it was missed on the angle that the TV was showing. But it is what it is. Let's get into it. So we're up 20-13 after that controversial drive and controversial extra point. Uh, Next drive for the Colts, John Taylor was running on the defense really well throughout this drive, and it ended on our side of the field. But it's a good thing. But the good thing is we stopped them for a third down stop, and they elected to go for a field goal, went which made the score 20-16. And this is where I'm gonna get with with not that controversial, with the needing an extra point made, which, like I said, Michael Badgley, he should have made that extra point because it would have been 20-17. That's a 3-point game when all you need is a field goal. But we'll get into that. Uh, Next drive, when you need to drive down the field to honestly end the game with a touchdown, go up by a touchdown with a field goal. We're driving down the field. We looked good on this drive. CJ looked great on this drive. We were moving down the field, but then the drive stalls on our side of the ball. I forgot what yardage it was. I believe it was a 23. No, 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 no. It was a 16. It was a 16. I remember that. Yeah, it was the 16-yard line. We were 3rd and 1. We decided to do a tush push with Case Stover. We did it earlier in the game and it worked. We got stopped for 4th and 1. So you're thinking, okay, what are we gonna scheme up? You got Nick, you got Woody, you got Nico maybe for a jet sweep. You got CJ maybe doing something crazy, or just throwing a throwing a quick pass to somebody, a slant route. No, we decided to do a damn tush push again with Kate Stover. So their defense is ready for it because it's the same formation that we just played right now on that 3rd and 1 that they stopped. So what do you think they're gonna do? Yeah, they stopped it and turnover on downs. I don't understand the play call with Nick Haley on that. Nick Haley, I'm not gonna lie, is having overall did have a good game, play calling wise, the schemes, which is why the offense did look good, especially with drives like these. But when they stutter and shoot themselves in the foot on plays like these, it's on Nick Caley because he came up with it and decided to tell the offense that this is what we're doing, and it ended with nothing. And we cannot have this, and it's just terrible because if we would have got that first down by not doing another tush push, if we would have got that first down, we would have drained more clock. We could have scored a field goal or even a touchdown, but no, we squandered that opportunity of 4th and 1, giving the ball back to the Colts with 3 minutes left on the game clock. And yeah, you at this point, of course, they're on their side of the field at their own 16, but still 3 minutes left. That's so much time for them to definitely come back to do something special. Uh, so they start moving down the field. Clock is draining, clock is moving, and you're just scared because you don't know what's going to happen. This is the number one offense versus the number one defense. You don't know who's going to come out on top with because this is the final drive of the entire game. You don't know who's going to win this because if the Colts did score a touchdown, our offense would have probably had like less than a minute remaining, and that's being truthful. And you don't know if this offense would have came back or not with a touchdown to win the game or a field goal to possibly take the lead. Because if they would have scored a touchdown, yeah, if they scored a touchdown, it would have been 23-20. So we if we got the ball back, we would have needed a field goal to tie it to go into overtime. But we're not getting into that. It didn't happen. Uh, McColl's were driving down the field. Uh, we got them to a 3rd and 9, and that was another controversial play because it was Josh Downs. He caught the ball and then let go of the ball. And to me, he was moving with his feet with the ball in his hands. Yeah, I get it. He was still a little bobbling it, but I still count that as a football play, as a move, as a receiver that has the ball in his hands. It's in his hands. He made about 4 steps, so I don't get how that's not a completed catch. I don't get it, but they called it incomplete. So at least our 4th and 9. I loved the scheme and formation of the 4th and 9 play that we had. We had everybody at the line ready to blitz. He had our secondary in coverage. Jalen Petrie was on, I believe, Michael Pittman. He was right there in front of him. And then all you see is he's back out going into coverage. Jalen coming in for a blitz. Leads to Dan Jones hiking in shotgun. He throws it to Michael Pittman. And for the first time all game, Derek Stingley was targeted. Derek Stingley blocked it for an incompletion, and it led to a turnover on down for the Texans to be in the driver's seat to win the game. And what happened is us needing a first down to win the game. They had 3 time. Colts had 3 timeouts left, and so you want to kill the clock, try to kill the clock in the game, make them run other timeouts, which they did. Uh, Woody Marks got a 2-yard run, got stopped, timeout. Then the next play, Woody Marks, the dog that he is, it was 2nd and 9. Uh, it was honestly at first, it was a 7-yard run, but he fought for his yardage and got a 9-yard play out of it, which led to a first down. Colts calling their second timeout, and at that point, that was game. They only had one timeout left with 1 minute 34 seconds left. That was all she wrote. Texans at the end, like I said, 120-16, dominant, defining win. But we should have at the end of it, we should have scored more points. This game should have been over with way before, but it is what it is. Time of possession that is good to see is we had the ball for about 34 minutes. Colts had the ball for 25 minutes. So having good time of possession over the other team is great to see. Like I said, Kaylee did a fine job. Just red zone offense is still inconsistent. Uh, we went 2 for 5 in the red zone, so we need to do better, way better than that, especially when going into Arrowhead Stadium against Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, when that Chiefs team is hungry and pissed off, ready for a W. Because if the Chiefs lose against us next Sunday, they're out of the playoffs. They're out of contention. So they're wanting to win this game next Sunday night. We'll get into that in another game. Let's see. Third down efficiency, we were 6 for 13, which was good, better than last week with Davis Mills against the Bills. I think we were 2 for 13 on third down conversions last week, so this is better to see. Uh, we had 24 first downs. Meanwhile, the defense, they held the Colts with third down conversions of 3 for 10, and they only had 17 first downs. So it was a good game offensively, good game, great game defensively. Even though we didn't have the sacks that we had last week, it was still a great defensive stop that we made throughout the game. But like I said, at the end of it, we won 2016. Great defining win, especially when it comes to us being in the hunt, especially wanting to get back in this division. We're right there behind the Jaguars, right behind the Colts. The Jaguars are on first now uh, because of conference records, because they beat the Chiefs. Colts didn't. They have the same record, so Jaguars are in first, but I don't think they're going to be first for longer. But yeah, like I said, this is the first time the Colts were held under 20 points all season. So hats off to the defense, hats off to D'Amico and Matt Burke for that. Uh, like I said, with the Jaguars, they have the Colts. They're both tied. They're playing next week in Lucas Oil Stadium, I believe. I think they're playing in Lucas Oil Stadium, but they have to play each other. We played 6-6 Chiefs. We got to win that game for sure if we want to get leverage back in this division. At this point, you want to see the I don't know. At this point, you want to see the Jags win, because then if the Jags win, we'll be in the wild card, and Colts are going to be in the hunt because we beat the Colts and we'll have the same record as them if we win and if Jaguars win. So we'll be right in the wild card, but still, you hate to see the Jaguars in first. But at this point, you're going to want to see the Jags win. But that's if Jaguars play the way they can, I guess, play. But I don't believe in Trevor Lawrence at all. Maybe their defense can give Daniel Jones hell as well, because Daniel Jones will still be dealing with that fibula injury, but we'll see what happens next Sunday when it comes to injury reports, when it comes to who's healthy, who's not. But I'm more focused on us against the Kansas City Chiefs. But we'll get into that in a couple of days once I do a preview on that. But overall, that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all once again for watching. This is a great Texas W. We got so much to fix on this offense still. This offensive line looks good. Like I said, CJ, I'm glad shook off the rust in the second half. These receivers look great. Woody looks good. You just hope that the run game can get better, blocking wise. But overall, we're going to move on from this win. We've won 4 straight in a row. Let's hope for 5. And yeah, let's go Texans, guys. This is the HOU Bullcast Show. I thank you for watching. Let's go Texans.